As we discussed in the last session about or importance of servlets for the web application development, we need servlet components. Just a minute. Please, servlet. Yeah. So for web application, right, particularly where you have a UI in HTML and you have web access from browser if you want to connect to your application and if you want to share information between your backend and front end, right, via web browsers, we prefer we prefer web applications. In Java we have servlets to handle that. Servlet API we have. So servlets can access the information which is coming from HTML front end from browsers. Servlets can able to access the information, and as soon as you get the data from front end using servlets, you can share it until database. So here up to controller to DAO part we learned using Spring, and then we shifted to Servlet. Why we shifted to Servlet means Servlets only can help us here to bring the data from front end to back end. So Servlets between our Spring application and this front end application, right? We need Servlets, like how JDBC is very important to us between DAO and database, right? Same way between front end and back end, Servlets are important here. So without servlets, it is not possible to us to make communication between front end and back end. So particularly when you think, right, server based applications, web applications which used to deploy it into server and we used to access from the browser, we will access with the server IP address and port number. Applications we can access, or else we can access by using its domain URL. Usually we will enter domain URLs, right, for any application, and we access it. The domain URL is a combination of your application IP and port, or a masked generated URL, like how we did using ngrok, right, in the last session. So such a URL, a forward URL will be configured with your domain, so that as soon as you enter this URL, it will redirect to your application and it will give the response. But the communication will happen using HTTP protocol. So whatever data you fill and submit here, that will be sent in the form of HTTP protocol from browser to server, so that server can understand. So all browsers and all web servers will follow same HTTP protocol. There is no other protocol them to follow. So only HTTP protocol browsers and servers will follow, so that information easily they can understand. So protocol means it's a common medium, or you can say language. While I'm speaking with you, if I speak it in my native language, very few might understand. But as we are doing communication in English, we able to talk each other. That is the common medium for us. Same way all the browsers and servers will talk to the HTTP protocol as a common medium between them. Okay, so that they can understand the information. Browser will send information to server, server can read and understand, and it can send to application. Same way your backend application also will send around response back to your browser. So browser need to understand it. So server also will send in the form of HTTP only. And we understand HTTP protocol will have head section, body section. Okay, head section will have all the headers information like language, browser information, right? So much header information we send, and as part of body we will send the payload, the request body which you have in the form, that is inside protocol. Under body it will be kept, and this HTTP protocol data will be transferred to backend. So as soon as you submit data from browser to backend, your backend directly cannot able to read backend classes. So instead your backend class is reading it first. Web server will read your information, whichever HTTP protocol data you send, right? So that information will read by web server first, then that web server will give that information to servlet, then servlet can able to read it. So while giving to servlet, it will give in the form of plain Java object only. But while getting from the browser, not as a Java object. From browser, it will send as a HTTP protocol. But while giving it to your servlet class, it will be given as a simple request to Java object, so that we can able to easily read data with using the Java object. And once we're done with all our read operations, you can take it forward to your business logic, DAO logic, and save it. Finally, once you get the response from your service, you can send response back to web server. Web server will send it to a particular browser. Let's say, as we see right in the last example, when I send my name, it given hello to me, and when you send your name, it given response to you. So how it is remembering your information? So web server will keep all clients information, client type, browser, uh, not IP. Every browser will have a unique ID. So that unique ID it will remember, and it will send exactly to the same browser. The same response will send it back, so that you can able to see the response. And yeah, we did an example using servlet. Why servlets are important means, again, without servlets we can't able to make communication between front end browsers to back end applications. So we understand how to implement complete back end application till DAO until DAO part. But when I introduce front end forms, we don't have any clue here. So if introduce any front end forms, right, you definitely need a servlet between front end and back end. Without servlet we can't do anything. Okay. Now, will Spring is having such a servlet internally, or do we need to write a servlet? Means you need not to write. Spring MVC is having that servlet. Spring MVC is having a servlet. That servlet will handle all the request and responses. And yeah, so consider when you have. Okay, let me talk about the servlet. So Spring is having servlet, right? As I said, the servlet name is dispatcher servlet. The servlet name is dispatcher servlet. It is having in Spring Web Jar file. Spring Web Jar is having this servlet, dispatcher servlet. It is similar to your servlet which you extended from HTTP servlet, right? Similar to that. So dispatcher servlet is a framework class which is already implemented and given to us. This is predefined implementation from Spring MVC framework. Only one servlet they given? Yes. Only one single servlet given. What about if I have multiple forms here? If my application is having hundreds of forms here, if I have multiple forms, not only registration, if I have products creation, items creation, catalogs creation, colors, graphics, all I want to create from the front end, and I want to save it into the database. So when I have so many forms here, will one servlet can handle them? Usually web applications, does it require many servlets or one single servlet enough? Servlets can be utilized for n number of forms, not only single form. One single servlet can be utilized for n number of forms. One single servlet can be utilized for n number of front end requests, not only one page. N number of pages request you can handle by using single servlet. So by respecting that principle, they implemented the servlet class. And front end forms are not predefined. How they implemented it? They created only servlet. Front ends are designed by whoever is using the framework. So our front ends data might be different, but how it will read our front end data? So they implemented it in a generic way, dispatch a servlet. They implemented it in a generic way to support any kind of front end form which you send. This is very generic servlet class. This is not a strict servlet that it will ask only you to send a form with name, email address, or send a form with something else. That is not the case. Dispatcher servlet is a generic servlet class. It's a simple class that will accept any request. So dispatcher servlet will accept any request. The basic principle of this dispatcher servlet is accept any request. It will accept any request which you submit. So then who will handle that request? If I send for registration, will it handle registration logic? I have multiple requirements. A registration requirement, a registration form, and I have a login form. For example, I have two forms here, login form and registration form. Is it going to handle them directly? Registration logic is there or login logic is there in this dispatcher servlet? No. They given a simple generic class that will not do anything. but it will accept your request. The only thing that it can do is it can accept your request. It can accept your request, whichever request you submit, right? Either it's a registration form or login form, etc. Anything, any kind of form. You submit, it will accept your request. Then after here, after dispatcher servlet, right, you need to implement your controller classes. As we learned, right, using at the rate controller, at the rate service, at the rate DAO, we implemented MVC classes, right, using stereotype. So then you have to start your development from there onwards. You need to implement your controller classes. Spring stereotype based controller you need to implement, and services and DAOs. Earlier we used to have programmatic classes. Using that programmatic classes or programmatic approach also you can implement them. But as you understand more about the annotations, right? So easily you can implement a simple controller class using at the rate controller, and that at the rate controller will handle your particular form request, not by dispatcher servlet. If you have registration form, you need to implement a registration controller. You need to implement a registration controller. A registration controller you need to implement, and you know which annotation you need to use here. At the rate controller. So what it will do generally, these controllers are specific to your forms, not the dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet also is a type of controller, but it is predefined. You are not going to edit it or you are not going to write it. It is an existing class, just you need to add this jar file, and as it is you need to use that class. As it is you need to use this dispatcher servlet class. So the dispatcher servlet class job is it will act like a mediator between your front end forms and back end controllers. Why this mediator is required? Without this servlet mediator we cannot access request which is coming from front end. Front end request can be handled by only servlets only. So as soon as this request is received by server, right? Tomcat or any web server, this will read your data which is coming in the form of HTTP protocol, as we discussed, right? This HTTP protocol data your Tomcat will receive this HTTP protocol data, and it will convert it into request and response objects, and that request and response will given to your dispatcher servlet, like do get to do post method. We have do service also, right? It will send your data to service method of this servlet. Request and response objects will be given to your dispatcher servlet, and from here dispatcher servlet will start its job. What it will do, dispatcher servlet, as soon as it receives request from web registration form or login form or any XYZ form, the data it will receive first. As soon as it receives your data, it will identify the controller which is required to execute for your registration form. For registration form, let's say you have a registration controller, dispatcher servlet will identify it, which controller need to be executed. Then it will send the same request and response objects to this controller. It will redirect the same, or it will forward the same request and response to your controller. As soon as you receive your data here in this controller, you can take it forward to your service class and DAO classes. From here, this is easy part for us. Simple services we can write and we can auto wire them. I have here registration service and registration DAO. DAOs annotated with at the rate repository. So you can auto wire this here to here. Your DAOs will be auto wired here using at the rate auto wired. and services will be auto wide into controller. Using the auto wide object, what we can do, as soon as you submit data from your form, dispatcher servlet reads it. First, not dispatcher servlet, Tomcat will read it. The first to destination is your Tomcat, then next to dispatcher servlet, then next to controller. So first, always your form data will go to web server will forward to dispatcher servlet will forward to controller. Do I need to write code for these two layers? Tomcat is predefined, dispatcher servlet also predefined. You need not to do anything, just you need to configure them. One time effort here, this part. And what about this front end and back end? You need to implement them. Forms you need to create. From here, you need to write your classes. Right? These two layers will help you to forward your data which is coming from front end. So as soon as you receive your request to this controller, from here you can forward your data to auto service, and from here you can forward to DAO, and finally DAOs will interact with your DB and persist your information. And as soon as it done with its operation, it will send response back to dispatcher servlet only. It will send again response back to dispatcher servlet. Then dispatcher servlet will give response back to whichever form you submitted. If it is a registration form, it will give response to registration form. If you send from login form, it will give response back to login form. So this is the basic flow of your request from front end to back end database. Okay, front end to back end database. Okay, so depth, this dispatcher select depth discussion we will do. Okay, complete request and response flow, how it will be handled. But remember this on very high level, right? To understand the importance of dispatcher servlet, to understand the importance of dispatcher servlet and Tomcat. Okay, so without a dispatcher servlet or without Tomcat, you cannot imagine the backend interaction with the front end. Okay, I'll give you a simple example with the dispatcher servlet. Then we'll give you in depth more. Here, few more components will involve. We will discuss about them. But for time being, see a simple example on dispatcher servlet. Okay, let me create a simple application project. Dynamic web project only you have to choose. Okay, when it is MVC application, right? Choose a dynamic web project. I must be audible, right? Everyone? Yeah. So dynamic web project, simple registration form example. Okay, registration form with the Spring Dispatcher Servlet. We have Tomcat already. Finish it. So once you create with your project, here right, web application package structure. It will have source folder and web content folder. Source and web content. Under source, you need to put Java classes. All your Java classes and the XML files you will be putting under src folder, source folder. Under web content, you need to put all your web pages, all web related information, image files or CSS files, JavaScript, all will be part of web content. Java files will be part of source. And lib section is for your libraries. Whatever jar files you are using for your application, right? Usually while in connecting with the JDBC, we will add Oracle jar file. While dealing with the Spring jars, we add Hibernate jars, we add. So usually we add jar files into class path. When it comes to web application, not only class path, you need to put same library set into lib folder, because your development will depend on class path. But as soon as you move your web application to server, right, server cannot able to access your class path libraries, because servers may be resides in different machines. So class path means your application will access your you know a particular machine's folder to access your libraries in case of class path. So your machine folders will not available to the servers, right? So that's the reason you should keep your libraries into lib folder as well. Okay. And then one more important file is web.xml file. We see in the last example also, right? To map our front end request to backend servlets, we will use that. So that will work as a deployment descriptor to this Tomcat. How Tomcat will recognize that your form need to go to dispatcher servlet via web.xml file only. So web.xml file will have a information that it will be connector between your front end and back end classes, which are having in front end, right? Front end forms and back end classes. So between them, this is the mediator, or like a address book between your front end and back end. Okay. So once you create with the project, add libraries first. Go to build path, add external jars, Spring 3 library, Spring 3 jar files. Open it, add them to class path as well as lib. So I have all the jar files. First we will do simple basic hello application, and we will extend it more once we understand the architecture. Okay. So now I have libraries. I just created project. Okay. Now within these libraries, right, we have Spring Web jar file. If you see, out of all these jar files, there is a Spring Web jar also. We have here Spring Web jar and Spring Web Servlet also we have. So these are the web jar files: web, web portlet, web servlet, web flow. In these web jar files, we have one web.servlet jar. Within that, we have org.springframework.web.servlet package. Within that package, you have one class here. The first class is dispatcher servlet. So just copy this dispatcher servlet fully qualified path, package name till the class name. So this dispatcher servlet is a predefined class. Already it is implemented and given to us. Okay. So this class implementation is already given to us in the form of jar file. You need not implement anything. Okay. Now let's create a form here. Let's create a form here. One front end form I'll create. Index.html. I'll create a simple form here. Hello.rbu. This is my action URL, and the method type get all post. Okay, button name is say hello. When I click hello, it need to give response. As soon as I click here, this will try to redirect to this URL, your domain slash hello.rbu. Now with this hello.rbu, I need a backend class here. I need a backend class com.rbu.web application. Let's say registration employee management system dot web. Here I'll be writing one controller class. I'll be writing a controller class here. So there are multiple ways. First, I'll start with programmatic approach. Okay, one programmatic example I will give you. Okay, so here I'll be having registration. For now, registration form I don't have. Simple hello we have, right? Hello controller implements controller interface. Spring given one interface class which is controller. Just try to implement that. So as soon as you override handle request method which is given in controller interface, it will provide you one request object and one response object. Using this request object, as usual, you can read your data. Request dot get parameter. It will bring your name till here. And from here, you need to send response. Earlier, we used to send response like this: response dot send a redirect, or response dot get writer dot print. Excuse me. So in this scenario, it will not work. You should not use response.getWriter println. This will not work with the Spring based controller interface. You need to send response in the form of model and view. What this model and view contains and how it is useful, we will discuss. Okay. First, let me send it model and view. The page name, whichever page you want to send as a success page, that page name you should give here without extension also, just page name. And if you want to keep something into request to scope rather than request to scope, you need to use object map scope only. Inside map, you need to put your data. Map dot put message variable, whatever message you want to give. We'll put that here. Key is MSG message, and this is the value. You can put your map object also here. Your success page name and output object. Page name plus map object. Map object is nothing but your request scope. This is nothing but request scope. So inside map, what we'll have your request scope key and value. Okay, fine. But how it will be mapped? I have form here hello.rbu. When I click on say hello, it should go to my controller. Yeah, let me finish this question. Okay. Yeah. So as soon as I submit here, it need to go to this hello.rbu. How it will go? It need to execute this method. My expectation is this method. So to map from here to till here, you need to do few configurations. The first configuration that you need to do is your servlet configuration here. What servlet? dispatcher servlet configuration. Servlet, servlet mapping, servlet name, URL pattern, servlet name and servlet class. Org dot spring dot web dot servlet dot dispatcher servlet. Yeah. So you need to configure this predefined servlet here. For which form? I have a form here, hello.rbu. So when I click on hello.rbu, it should go to dispatcher servlet, which is predefined. Okay, let me put it. Hello. So as soon as you submit this button, this name will take it forward to hello.rbu. So hello.rbu is mapped to dispatcher servlet. Okay, but this is a generic servlet which is implemented already, dispatcher servlet. Nothing to handle within the dispatcher servlet. Here I have my name, that name need to be handled. That name should be reading and sending the output. But dispatcher servlet cannot do that. Instead of dispatcher servlet, we have implemented a hello controller that need to be handled. Okay. So once you receive the request to dispatcher servlet, now dispatcher servlet will forward your request to hello controller. So dispatcher servlet need to take that responsibility. But how it will do that? How it will do that? Dispatcher servlet also needs a mapping file. How your front end is mapped to dispatcher servlet, right? Via web.xml file. In this web.xml file, front end request map to dispatcher servlet. Now dispatcher servlet also need a XML file just to map your request till hello controller. To map your request to hello controller, it needs a configuration file. So you need to give that configuration file here. You need to create one file here. Inside webinf, right? You need to create one more file. Hello hyphen servlet dot xml file. One Spring file you need to create here. Spring XML file. As usual, copy your Spring DTD there. And you need to map here. Same kind of mapping, right? How this hello.rbu map to dispatcher servlet. You need to guide to dispatcher servlet also via this Spring XML file. Via beans tag only you can do that. Beans name. If any request coming from hello.rbu, if any request is coming from hello.rbu, send it to my class. What is my class name is? Hello controller. My class name is hello controller, which is there in con.rbu.dms.web. Send it to my controller. Cool. The data will be forwarded till here. Okay. So your data will come till handle request method. So you are reading your name and printing output and sending response to the success page. I given page name only. If you see here carefully, as a response I given page name only. So the response will be given again back to dispatcher servlet. As per architecture, request will go to your controller and response will come back to dispatcher servlet. So now dispatcher servlet will need a help here. Success only you given, but what is the output folder? What is the extension? That also will configure here. Output helper. We'll put one output helper here to send the output. So the output helper class name is view resolver. Okay, we configure here view resolver. The class name is internal resource view resolver. Copy this complete path. Internal resource view resolver. So this view resolver, how it can help? So this view resolver is having two setter methods. You know how to call setter methods using property tag. This internal resource view resolver is having two setter methods. One is set prefix, set suffix. In this prefix, you need to give your output page location. Location of output page. And second is suffix. This is extension of output page. So location of your output page and the extension of your output page. Head to output page is not created. Let's create it. Output page need to be created inside web content only. I'll be putting it inside webinf, which is very safe for your output pages also. I'll be creating a folder. Okay. So output page folder, success pages. Folder name itself success pages. So you need to give that folder name here, success pages. And inside that folder, success folder, it will expect the output page name called success. Depends on your page name. Hello output if you want to put. So this is what it will expect. Hello hyphen out dot JSP or hello JSP. Whatever you want. Page name only. No extension either. So you need to create that page here. Inside success pages, you need to create your hello page. And I'm adding JSP as a response page so that I can able to read the request scope data. Right? Using scriptlet, we can read our request scope data. Request dot get attribute. There we stored a message inside map object. I told you to consider request object, right? So it will read you, give you this message. Then you can print that message. Okay, this is the expression tag, right? Expression message. That's it. And here you need to give the extension. What is your page name? Hello.jsp. Till hello only I configured here. Then .jsp extension who will give? We need to give. From this XML file, right? You need to give. So when you send response back, this output helper will help dispatcher servlet to identify the location of your output page and extension of output page. Finally, what it will do? Success pages slash hello dot JSP page it will generate as hello you given as a response. That's it. Try to run and see. Complete end-to-end flow now we have. If you see front end, as soon as I click on this hello button, this hello.rbu request first it will go to web.xml file. So in web.xml file you have dispatcher servlet. So dispatcher servlet will read your request and it will read hello-servlet.xml file and it will understand for this hello.rbu what is the controller. So your hello.rbu will take it to your controller class. So here you have logic and finally you are sending a page as a response. So that page response dispatcher servlet again will receive back. Your dispatcher servlet will receive page and that page doesn't having any extension or location. So again it will read your configuration which you have provided here. Internal resource view resolver. So here you give a success page location and the extension. Now it will combine both success pages slash success dot JSP. It will combine everything together and it will search for that page here in the success pages folder. So as soon as it finds this, it will redirect to you for the response. Web.xml is to map till dispatcher servlet only. Dispatcher servlet is don't have the logic to read your name and sending output. This is your customization, right? This all customization you have implemented in your control. Dispatcher servlet is just a medium. Till your controller, you need to forward the request. Up to one level you forwarded, fine. Dispatcher servlet received request. Then who will forward till your controller? And who will give that information to dispatcher servlet? If you see up to one level dispatcher servlet, we configured in web.xml. From dispatcher servlet to controller, here we are configuring. Line number 5. Okay, two levels of mappings. Web.xml mapping to map till dispatcher servlet. This hello.servlet XML is containing actually who need to execute your hello controller. Let's run and see. Correct. Yeah. And why we need dispatcher servlet means without servlet we cannot able to read front end request. That is a medium. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. That we will see. Yeah, yeah. We'll see. We will see that. Okay. We have not discussed that part. Okay. I just want to make you to understand the simple thing first. Okay. Simple thing is dispatcher servlet is a medium that you need to convince first. Okay. As I said, servlets, without servlets we cannot able to forward request. Without servlets we can't able to take the request which is coming from front end to back end. That you will be convinced here. Then we can see depth discussion how it is loading and how many ways we can load it. Okay. So if I give some name here, okay, Ravi, and say hello. So the request is generated here. Hello.rbu. Hello.rbu. Yeah, here also we have it is going to dispatch a servlet saying 404 success pages slash hello.jsp. Output page location we have given. And give simple slash success pages. Backend received our request, but we didn't receive response back. Properly, we need to put a slash also between. Let me restart. Say hello.rbu success pages slash hello.jsp not for success pages slash hello.jsp. Success pages. Acha, it is inside web. Okay. So the complete path from web hyphen. It is trying to finding it out in web content only, but not in web, right? It is inside web. Till web, you should keep. Let me restart again. We got finally a response. Hello page. Okay. So here we have not used any servlets. If you see this hello controller we implemented from a controller interface, which is Spring based controller interface, not servlets class. This is not servlet library, a simple bean class only. Controller also simple bean only, not a servlet implementation. But how this bean is executed without servlets, we learned that it is not possible to read front end request, of course. So for any number of front ends, you will be having only one backend class here. For any number of front ends, you will be having only one backend class here is dispatcher servlet. As soon as you submit your front end request, first your request should reach to dispatcher servlet. Till dispatcher servlet, it should reach. Who should do that configuration? You should do that, right? If you go to Spring Boot Advanced Concepts, we don't have all this, configuration stuff. But the basic configuration you need to do. All your front end requests should go to dispatcher servlet first. Okay. So as soon as dispatcher servlet reads your request, it should able to forward your request to controllers. Once you submit your request from front end, right? From front end to back end, based on this web.xml file configuration, your front end request will be forwarded to dispatcher servlet first. Then dispatcher servlet should able to forward your request to this controller where you are doing read operations and sending response operations. So from front end to back end mapping we have done in web.xml till dispatcher servlet. And what about from dispatcher servlet to your controller? This mapping is required, second level mapping. That mapping you need to do with the Spring XML file. Web.xml file beside web.xml file, right? Create one more XML file. Create one more XML file, which is your Spring XML file. There, do this line number 5. The same URL I am configuring here and asking to redirect to hello controller. So who will read it? Dispatcher servlet will read it. First thing, when I submit my form, hello.rbu, when I submit this, first it is going to dispatcher servlet. So that mapping will be identified by web.xml. And who is redirector here? Web.xml file will be reading by whom? Tomcat. So Tomcat will read this web.xml. Under web.xml, what I have configured for the forward mapping, URL pattern, I map to dispatcher servlet here. So this servlet configuration mapping I have done there. So web.xml file is having that information. URL hello.rbu should go to dispatcher servlet, this servlet class. This mapping will read by whom? Tomcat. So you have given this mapping. When there is a hello.rbu request, you need to map to dispatcher servlet. This is configured via web.xml file and read by whom? Tomcat. Tomcat will read this information and it will understand, okay, if there is a hello.rbu request, I should forward it to dispatcher servlet. Fine. So your request will take it forward to dispatcher servlet. It is a predefined servlet class. You need not implement anything. Dispatcher servlet. So your request will take it forward till dispatcher servlet. Okay, via web.xml file, Tomcat understands that which controller or which servlet need to be executed. Your request is taken forwarded to dispatcher servlet. Fine. From here, dispatcher servlet need to forward your request to controller. Servlet need to forward request to controller, like this hello controller which we implemented. Hello controller. So your hello controller need to be executed. I have hello controller here. It should be executed. Let me keep it here or here. Okay. I have hello controller. So how dispatcher servlet will forward this request to hello controller? Tomcat can able to forward because of web.xml file mapping. This mapping is helping to Tomcat to map your front end request to dispatcher servlet. Same way dispatcher servlet should take it forward to hello controller. So for dispatcher servlet we need to create one servlet XML file. What is the naming convention for it? For Tomcat exactly web.xml file we need to maintain. What about dispatcher servlet? For dispatcher servlet, you need to create one XML file, web.xml file के साथ, besides to it, along with web.xml file. What is the name that I have used here? Hello-servlet.xml file. So if you see servlet name, we are using hello. Whichever servlet name you are using here, same name file you need to be create here. Hello-servlet.xml file. But that is not a mandatory rule. If you want to follow your own naming conventions, then configuration will change. But by default, whichever servlet name you are using here, the same named file you need to create. Little more extension is required, that is -servlet.xml file. If you put here Dikshit-servlet.xml file. If I put Naveen here, Naveen-servlet.xml file. If I put ABCD here, ABCD-servlet.xml file you need to create. So you will be having one more XML file which is Spring XML file hello dot hello hyphen spring dot servlet dot XML file. This is your Spring XML file. Under this Spring XML file, what I have this mapping. I have mapping between your front end to controller. A dispatcher servlet is able to map your request again, right? So when there is a request from your side, hello.rpu, your dispatcher servlet will read that information and it will understand, okay, when there is a hello request, hello.rbu, it should be forwarded to hello controller. It will understand that and it will forward your request to your particular controller. Okay, till I reach my controller class. And as the same request and response objects given, as you know, right? First level data forwarded as a HTTP protocol here. Data given in the form of HTTP. From here, Tomcat will convert that HTTP protocol into request and responses. Same request and response it will forward to dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet also forwarding same request and response to your controller. Finally, I'll receive my request and response here. Using request, you can apply same request.get parameter method you can use. Once I read, I am sending output. My requirement is I need to send output back. To send a output, I am using a model and view bean, a simple bean class, model and view bean, which is having two variables. Model and view bean is having two variables, view name and model. View name and model. Via constructor, you can pass them. View name means your output page name and model means your output data, response, whichever you want to send. Output page name and response object. Club both of them here and return this model and view object. It contains your output page name and response object. Who will receive that response back? The response will be given back to dispatcher servlet in the form of model and view. Response given in the form of model and view. Finally, I need to send HTTP protocol only, but hello controller will give model and view response back to dispatcher servlet. Now again dispatcher servlet need a help here. Model and view is having only output page name. Hello, no location, no address. If I write a letter to Dikshit just by mentioning his name, it will not reach him because I didn't mention proper address. His surname, his home number, location, everything I need to mention. So simple hello I mentioned here, nothing else apart from it. So in the model and view I mentioned simple output page name only, comma map object. Okay, you can understand at least map object. It is like a request scope object so that I can able to read the data. And what about page name? Only page name I can send. How my dispatcher servlet can able to send that page to end user? It cannot imagine what is the output page location. So that's the reason one more configuration that you need to do is view resolver. One more configuration that we have done is view resolver. View resolver configuration we have done, which is giving your output page, right? For the forward mapping it will help. While sending response, right? This mapping is required. For request, this is sufficient. But for response, this mapping is required. To send response, right? This mapping is required. View resolver I configured here. View resolver is a additional one more class. So this class helping to dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet will read this information as well. In this information, what we have given, the output page location, where it can able to find that output page. Page name only model and view given, and it will ask guess from where output page is. Dispatcher servlet will get that location from here. In view resolver, you configured webinf slash access pages. Okay, dispatcher servlet will identify it. Page name only I have given, so webinf slash access pages slash success it will append, or hello it will append. I given what? In my controller success page name I mentioned hello. Okay. Up to hello it will append. Yeah. Let me finish it with okay. So output page name it will identify. Cool. So it will append your name, whatever name you have given here. As a output page name you have given here only hello. Only hello you have given. This is the page name that you have given. So what it will do, it will append this as a prefix. If you see, this is the prefix. Prefix means before this, before your output page name, prefix. It will prefix it. Whereby nf slash access pages slash hello. It will do that appending. Appending it will do. Whereby nf slash success pages slash hello. It will append. It will do simple string concatenation. Hello, it will append. Then what about extension? There is no simple page like hello. Either it should be HTML or JSP or something else. So that JSP also it need to append as a suffix. Up to here, this part it will append as a prefix, and this will be append as a suffix. So did I given that prefix and suffix information? Yes, I have given both. Prefix and suffix I have given. So this prefix and this suffix will be appended to your hello page name. And that's it. It is having all what it wants. And it will inform the same to let me finish it. Okay. So as soon as dispatcher servlet gets this location and extension everything, it will forward it back to Tomcat. So now Tomcat is having complete path. What it will do? Simply it will forward it to front end. Simply it will forward to your front end. So front end can able to read your request, scope data, whatever you mentioned, map object, and we can able to show it. That is what happened here. If you see, if you imagine now, right? So when I submit it as a first step, as soon as I click here, first it is going to Tomcat. Tomcat is redirecting to dispatcher servlet, then dispatcher servlet redirecting to controller, then controller is executing these lines of code, reading it, printing your name. So as soon as it printing SOP, I can able to see that name here. Then I am preparing a map object to forward my response back. Inside map object, I am putting a message key, a simple key, and one output. I am adding here, hello Mr. or Miss name. Then I am returning a model and view object with my output page name and this map object. As soon as I return it, it will come back to dispatcher servlet. Then dispatcher servlet will seek some information to identify the location and extension of your page to send the response. So it will append this location and it will append this .jsp to your hello, and it will redirect the same to front end via Tomcat. It will inform to Tomcat. Basically, Tomcat will do that redirection. It will pick your page and it will just forward it to front end. So then you would able to read the front end. If you see, apart from dispatcher servlet class, one more helper class that I am using here is internal resource view resolver. This view resolver job is identify prefix and suffix or appending prefix and suffix to your output page. Okay. So now you guys understand, right, how request is going from front end to all the way to back end and back end to front end. Everyone? Yes? No? Yeah. Yes. Good. Yeah. So this is the basic flow. Just a simple flow. I can say a simple and easy flow that you can able to remember it. Two configurations only you need to do. One is web.xml file. Okay. To forward your request to the dispatcher servlet, and one Spring XML file to forward more your request to your controller class, and one more helper class that I am using just to send a response back to identify your output page location and extension. Simple architecture. And they are using only one single servlet. Though you have thousands of front-end forms here, you need not to have many servlets. One servlet is sufficient, but one single tablet for all the page. One single dispatcher servlet for all the forms. Hello form, registration form, login form, XYZ form, or your project is having different kind of web pages, or my project may have different kind of web pages. For anything, single dispatcher servlet. Just it will act like a medium between your controller classes and front end. And what is the need of dispatcher servlet? Without a dispatcher servlet, we cannot imagine request. We can't able to read a request which is coming from front end. Tomcat is having such a dependency with servlets. Tomcats can talk with only servlets, not with your plain controllers or not with your plain Java classes. Tomcat can talk with only servlet components. Servlets are the components which are used for web development. Okay, they are very important. So till here is a pre-configuration that we do always. Same configuration we do. This part, same configuration. Always we do the same configuration. Now one more time, if you see your web.xml file, you should have a question here. As I have one front-end form which is having hello.rbu, directly I mapped hello.rbu to dispatcher select. What about if I have multiple forms, login.rbu, registration.rbu? Do I need to put that many servlet mappings here? Of course you can put. Who says no? You can put registration.rbu, login.rbu, abcd.rbu. N number of URLs mappings can be mapped to one single servlet. You can map 1000, no worries. Or else, if you see this is unnecessarily, I'm doing lot of mappings here. You may put simple expression also here, star. So that means any request will be taken forward to dispatcher server. RBU just an extension I'm using for my page, just star.rbu. That's it. It can be star means simple expression, regular expression. It will avoid all these configurations. reg, login, abcd, xyz, hello.rbu, all are having .rbu extension. So any request with .rbu extension, I am asking to redirect to dispatcher server. With simple expression, if you can put, it will avoid lot of configurations. So that you can map any number of pages to your dispatcher server. You need not to edit your web.xml file for every web page. Or if you have patience to do that, you can map each individual form to dispatcher server. It's up to you. Okay. Yeah, if you understand this basic architecture, right, tomorrow we'll discuss little more about this architecture, okay? And we will conclude this servlets with one annotation example, and we will start Spring Boot. Any